Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aviraj from Hack to Skill, and I'll be your host for the evening. So it's an honor to welcome you to the first masterclass of ONDC Presents Built for Bharat, which is supported by Startup India, sponsored by tycoons such as Google Cloud, Protean, Antler, and Paytm, and powered by Hack to Skill. So in this particular session, the basic agenda. Can you please unmute yourself, Sergey? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So the primary agenda for this particular masterclass would be to fully understand the fundamentals and foundation of ONDC and Google Cloud. But before we completely dive into the heart of the event, let's set the stage for the incredible journey that lies ahead. Everybody, I'd like to introduce you to Nitin Mishra. He is working as the Chief Technology Officer at ONDC with nearly 3 decades of experience as a technology product leader and an impressive background as an engineering graduate and IIM Kozhikode alumnus. Nitin leads the technology background, consultation, and strategy at ONDC. His extensive leadership journey spans banking, finance, EDA, integration, etc., where he has consistently driven innovation. Notably, Nitin also played a key role in the successful rollout of India's GC technology platform, showcasing his ability to navigate complex projects. And as a founding member of a startup specializing in retail analytics, Nitin brings a unique blend of business acumen and technology insight in the ONDC initiative. Nitin, it's a pleasure to have you in this session. Thank you for joining us. And along with Nitin, I'd also like to welcome our esteemed panelist, Usha Rangaraju. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Usha, the first triple Kaggle Grandmaster and the head of data science research at Excel Protocol, a renowned judge for major challenges like Tiger Graph and Intel One API Hackathon. Usha is recognized as a top data scientist in India. She pioneered in Neuro AI, India's first ever symposium at the intersection of neuroscience and data science, organized by the Neurodiversity India Summit. Usha's achievements include victories in Blue Whale ML in Action Competition, BIS 2022 Datathon, Kaggle ML Research Spotlight for 2022, TensorFlow Community Spotlight in 2023, and among those, many other accolades. So, Usha, thank you for joining us as well. It's a pleasure to have you. Sarjeet, can you please? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, without further ado, everybody, now please join me in welcoming our esteemed visionary leader, Mr. Nitin Mishra. So, he'll be shining light on the foundation of ONDC, that is Open Network for Digital Commerce, which is an initiative aimed at promoting open networks in all aspects in, as a exchange of goods, services over. Nitin, I take the stage and enlighten the participants.
Thank you so much, for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. Thanks for joining the session. What I'm going to do is ONDC while it's still a mystery, it's a platform, it's a network, it's a app. However, I'll try and demystify some of these things, as we go into our presentation. I just wanted to take a moment to sort of, also talk about what has been India's journey into the digital ecosystem for the last couple of decades. If you can go to the next slide, please.
Hi, Nathan. I believe Kuldeep would be sharing the slides for your
Yes,
presentation.
yes.
So, yeah, I'll just stop sharing over here. Yeah, Kuldeep, please move ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kuldeep. Thank you so much. So, if you see, over the last couple of decades, starting back in late 80s, early 90s, the internet was just about becoming popular in India. From then to now, there are about 800 million plus active internet users in India. There are about a mobile, 1 billion mobile connections, about, a 10 million GST registered business since it went live, almost about 1.4 billion Aadhaar issued. If you see what has actually played a key role in evolution of these platforms is fundamentally in internet and open protocols. So internet open protocols have, looking at these numbers, have touched almost every individual in our country, right? And UPI is a very classic example how open networks bring scale in the ecosystem. From about a few hundreds in, over the last couple of years, if not tens of payment transactions, we have now scaled to handle almost 10 million transactions every month, right? The evolution in open networks, however, has wings to now solve problems at digital scale in digital commerce space. If you can go to the next slide, what are these challenges that we actually see with the current, e-commerce paradigm? I mean, all of you are very well aware of how e-commerce is, working in India. There are a couple of platforms who now fundamentally have almost 90% plus traffic which is going through them, which has actually created a significant amount of concentration risk in the ecosystem. These are some of the challenges once you have only a few platforms and an oligopolistic, setup. There are challenges, pertaining to the capacity that these platforms offer. The entry barriers are fundamentally driven by the capacity and the intent of such providers. Data is a very critical element. Once you join a particular platform as a buyer or a seller, you have very less control today over your personal data, and it is fundamentally all concentrated in one place, right? The cost of operation actually, for existing players actually keep increasing because they have to, continue to be viable in the ecosystem. The market access becomes limited. The market is only, the buyers who are on a particular platform will have, limited visibility to the inventory which is available on that platform itself, right? Have you seen any innovation that is coming? Of course, there have been few, classic innovations that have happened in this space, but then I think the potential that the digital commerce space offers, compared to that, I feel the innovation has not been, up to the mark. Information asymmetry is another key problem. Fundamentally, what happens is when the real supply and demand statistics have to merge and discover the real price, the information risk has to be priced into the product prices. However, given so much of concentration and control over the data, which entails due to transactions that happen between a buyer and a seller, both buyers and sellers have clouded information, leading to information asymmetry. Buyers really do not know whether the price that they are paying is actually a right price for the product, or there is a further discounting possible. Similarly, the sellers do not know if they are getting the right price for the product that they are actually selling on the network. And last but not the least, there are fundamentally limited avenues for the buyers and sellers. Buyer will have to choose from the inventory which is available, on the platform, and similarly, sellers can only receive demand from a particular, set of buyers on a platform and only offer their products to those, buyers. Next slide, please. Now, before I dwell further into, how open networks are, how it is actually working, these are some statistics that actually shows how the network has actually grown over the last year, right? Starting with just 2 or 3 participants who were actually, exploring and experimenting with the concept. We now have over 100 plus participants, which has led to the growth of almost 1 lakh sellers on the network who are selling their inventory on the network. Similarly, the network participant growth from about from about 2 to 3 about a year ago, we are now touching almost 100 with a very healthy pipeline of over 1,000 participants across value chain like buyer, seller, logistics, and then variety of domains. We are working on financial as a domain to activate finance transactions on the network. Gift vouchers are already live. B2B is already live. Retail, grocery, food, mobility. There are hundreds of such domains which are now active on the network. And this is the slide that actually talks about the magnanimous growth that ONDC as a network had over the last 1 year. Next slide, please. And this is how the transaction volume have actually grown. And this only talks about the successful transaction. There are a lot of exploration and then pre-exploration stages that also happen on the network, and those numbers are really big. However, we have already hit about 500,000 orders in the month of November, starting where the start was about 1,000 orders a day. In fact, it was 500 order a day, and then suddenly we saw a spike to 1,000, and it has all been in history. We are continuously on a growth path, right? Similarly, if you also look at the efficacy of the network, the number of issues that have been raised, for the orders placed on ONDC has been on a consistent decline. We're not saying that we are, at the best possible level, and there are frameworks which are getting enabled on open network like IGM, the issues and grievance management, and we basically see that this particular decline is going to be significantly high over the next few months. Next slide, please. Now, if you see why, we have already explained the benefits of a bundled versus an unbundled network. The diagram on your left actually shows how a typical platform actually works. There is a buyer who's on a platform. There is a seller who's also on the same platform. The visibility between the buyer and the seller is limited by the platform that they are connected. And like this, there are quite a few disparate platforms, and the inventory is not seamlessly available across platforms. Versus a network approach where buyer is enabled by a buyer specific application, and this could actually come from any type of an application. There could be your banking application, could be a potential buyer app. Your social media app like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter or Instagram could be a potential buyer apps. And they basically align to open networks. And open networks are enabled by open standards, which are open protocols, right? Very similar to what HTTP did to internet, what SMTP did to email, what TCP did to the network connectivity is what the backend protocol, which powers ONDC, is actually going to do to the transactional framework. And when I say transactional framework, I'm refraining from calling it a digital commerce framework, because the potential of ONDC actually goes beyond commercial transactions. A transaction could very well be a transaction between a patient and a doctor. The transaction could be very well be a simple interface for seeking mentorship, seeking skills, seeking education, so on and so forth. And that is the power of these protocols. So on one side, you have seekers of product, services, or the inventory that is available on the network. On the other side is basically the seller participants, who fundamentally enable the sellers to become digital and be able to transact on the network, right? Now, if you look at the network, fundamentally the buyer's interest is basically being taken care of by the buyer applications, whereas the seller's interest is being taken care of by the seller applications, and they transact using open standards so that any value, any item that is catalogizable, that is something that can be defined in a particular specification, can actually get transacted on the network. In this foray, if you see, the buyer apps have fundamentally most of the information of the buyers, and sellers will have most of the information of the sellers, whereas only the required information get transacted between buyer apps and seller apps. So that is a fundamental difference between how the network is operating and how a platform operates. In a network, we basically define backend protocol, which basically enables ONDC model specifications. A very similar, and the closest that I need to draw from is, SMTP. In an SMTP, what happens, right? If you have an email server, or if you have an email account, let's say on Hotmail, you're able to send your email to a Gmail enabled account, and vice versa. How does it get connected? Right? Both are two distinct servers. Both are completely two distinct setups powered by two different organizations. The underlying architecture or the underlying protocol on email is SMTP, which is a simple mail transfer protocol. It basically has certain rules. It has certain well-defined endpoints, and on top of it, it has message formats. Mostly use MIME type formats, which basically get standardized. Both Gmail and Hotmail will understand SMTP and the specifications on top of it, and are able to extract information in the designated form, which is then rendered to the buyer. Now, Gmail can actually provide a different sort of an experience to someone who's actually consuming email on Gmail server versus a Hotmail guy. Hotmail, as an organization, will provide a different user experience depending upon their, capability and their intent and reason to be in the ecosystem. So, very similar concept is what is working in ONDC, where the seller offers their items to the buyers who are seeking those items, and then the transactions are happening seamlessly using the protocols and specification which is underlined. Next slide, please. And this is a fundamental design framework for ONDC, right? At the bottom, you see the base layer, which is the backend. It is fundamentally a DOF framework, and DOF stands for Discovery, Order Fulfillment, and Post Fulfillment. Any transaction undergoes a discovery phase where a buyer is looking for a particular item. The buyer needs to know who are the sellers on the network who are offering that particular item or items in a particular category. Buyer then performs selection. They basically create a card or a purchase order. They go through the order flow. They place an order, and then the fulfillment takes place, right? And the fulfillment is fundamentally where the goods actually gets picked up from a seller location and gets sent to a buyer location. Fundamentally, a door-to-door delivery. Now, if you look at the possibilities of innovation, there are various models of fulfillment. There is a model where there could be a self-pickup, delivery is possible. There is a locker box delivery, smart box delivery that is also possible, right? So there are multiple modes in which the fulfillment happens. The fulfillment providers, like logistics players, are also on the network. So a seller really do not need to worry about how a product will actually get picked up from their location and get delivered to the destination. They simply perform a lookup for a rider on the network, saying that I need to provide this item from my shop location to a buyer location, and then the available inventory on the logistics side actually provides the rider, and the goods actually move from one location to another. There are also post-fulfillment scenarios. For example, there is cancellation. There is support requirement. There is a return. There is a refund. There are issues in grievance management. There is reconciliation settlement. There is a status update. All of those are part of the post-fulfillment flows, which is fundamentally once the order is placed and fulfilled, the post-fulfillment takes care of the post-fulfillment requirements for a particular order. On top of it, ONDC actually is a layer which defines, which implements, specifications defined by backend and create a model implementation. It is more like a business template, which fundamentally is an API contract. For example, a buyer, when they are searching for an item, will draft a particular payload and then send across the network for a seller who would then interpret seamlessly in the same format as the buyer would have sent. Both buyer app and seller app will basically do, and fundamentally, this is the grammar of this transaction. Right? The grammar ensures that the interpretation of the payload is same across the two disconnected entities. Similarly, the grievance, the policies, there are certain network policies. As part of our ONDC role, we also have a governing responsibility of the network, basis which we basically have very lightweight policies which are implemented on the network, which are to be complied by the respective participant. Of course, there is an online dispute resolution engagement that is also there as part of the network layer. Open data is another large piece that we are trying to define for, fundamentally for the economic benefit of the larger ecosystem. Now, the open data will actually be something which is publicly available and publicly publishable. The users of that data could be research institutes, could be academic institutions, could be government, could be a business planner who will actually get this data and then plan their business around it. And finally, there is a registration flow. Network also, or ONDC also has to ensure that unscrupulous elements are not getting access to the network and network resources, and therefore there is a rigorous registration process, which is a multi-stage process before somebody gets keys to the network. On top of it, there is an app layer, fundamentally a buyer app. I already talked about. Examples could be a banking app, example could be a social media app, could be Paytm, could be PinCode, PhonePe, anything. And on the other side, there are seller apps who basically provide seller services. A typical POS player in a restaurant, in a nearby restaurant, could potentially become a seller app. In fact, a lot of these seller apps are people who actually provide POS services to the restaurants. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to dwell a little deeper, and of course, all of these things are, and all of it, what you see on this particular slide is actually driven by a community. It is not something that ONDC is defined. ONDC, of course, is custodian of these protocols because somebody has to manage and make sure there is a discipline in the releases of the versions. However, it is fundamentally contributed by the community. We have our GitHub portal where a lot of people technically contribute either with their tools, with their possible scenarios in business use case, enabling a particular scenario on the protocol on the network. There are also business people who actually contribute in terms of what are the new business models that can actually sort of activate and enhance the network and enhance their own interest on the network. And all of these are what you see on the bottom, fundamentally open protocol with community, as I said, verifiable decentralized identities. A use case we are working on, we already have an identity. Right now it is decentralized. However, it is not verifiable, but we are working on creating a model around this also. There is digitally signed bilateral transactions. All transactions which are fundamentally become the transaction level contracts are digitally signed, making them non-repudiatable. Where the public keys of these are actually available in the registry if somebody wants to, non-repudiate any payload that has, come on the network. Bilateral negotiations through protocol. Fundamentally, ONDC does not play any role in completion of the transaction, and this is very important to understand. Unlike UPI, where there is an NPCI sitting in between which acts as a switch and performs the transaction and settlement. ONDC does not perform any of those activities. ONDC only hosts a very small digital asset called registry, which is only used for discovery. It's equivalent to DNS in an SMTP scope. DNS server simply provides the endpoints where a particular service or an asset is located, and then all other transactions are peer-to-peer. This is why there is a bilateral agreements covered by transaction level contracts, which is nothing but the payload that get transacted from discovery to post-fulfillment. The design itself provides for data privacy. If you focus on how we have actually enabled authentication and authorization of API access across network, even in peer-to-peer mode, you'll figure out that the data privacy and the security is designed into the system. And fundamentally, the vision is that there could be multiple such networks across the globe. And all these networks can actually interoperate seamlessly without any problem if they all follow a particular standard and protocol specifications. Next slide, please. Now, and this is a further elaboration of how the DOF framework is. Fundamentally, if you see on the right-hand side are API names, which are nothing but API schemas. Implementation side could be anything, but fundamentally, these define the action. Discovery happens on search. So a BAP or a buyer app initiates a search which gets responded through on search by the respective seller apps. Then the rendering of that information happens on the buyer app side, and then the order flow actually kicks in. Starts with a selection when you basically select an item and add it to your cart. The cart creation happens, then cart closure happens, and initialization on it, and a draft contract gets agreed between the parties. And then finally, there is a confirm, unconfirm flow, which fundamentally confirms the payment status, order confirmation, so on and so forth. Then comes the fulfillment cycle, where in case of a fulfillment, you can actually cancel. The policies are well defined. The policy, for example, a seller app can say that the moment the order is ready to ship, I will not accept cancellation. And then the cancel on cancel framework actually takes place. Similarly, a buyer may want to track where their order is. Yeah, they can use the track on track enabled by the respective participants, and then provide tracking information to the buyer. Similarly, update on update, if there is any change in the order values, for example, if there is a possibility of a cancellation which is leading to a refund, and the refund has certain deductions, that will happen through an update. There could be an issue associated with a particular item received by a buyer. They can raise an issue, and IGM will lead to an update call. Similarly, there could be a part cancellation where there is a part refund happening and the order values are getting updated. So all of that happens under update on update. Status is fundamentally, the status of an order. For example, an order is ready to ship, order is delivered. Some of those things that get taken care of in status. All these details are available on our GitHub pages, and I recommend all of you to spend time on our GitHub page and understand how these APIs are spelled out and what is the protocol or the rules that enable these APIs and manifest into a use case. Similarly, post-fulfillment is support on support, rating on rating, another important element. What we are not talking about today is the scoring framework, but there is also a scoring framework where a seller can get scored, and that score is available network-wide, and it is also interoperable. So a seller on one platform, once they move to another platform, they'll basically carry this whole score with them, so that they don't have to start from scratch when they actually onboard onto the other side. There are also ancillary APIs that is part of my post-fulfillment, but they are spec'd by ONDC. They are not fundamentally defined by backend, but at some point in time, all of it actually will become part of backend only. Is issue and grievance management. Buyer has an issue, seller has an issue, buyer app has an issue. All these can actually use this open framework of IGM. Of course, there is reconciliation and settlement, another very important element, which fundamentally enables the reconciliation of order and their payments between the two parties. Also to ensure that the possibilities of frauds are fundamentally mitigated. There is a settlement framework enabled by a settlement agency, which is under the regulation of RBI, who will basically perform the debit and the credit on ONDC network, right, between network participant account. Therefore, these accounts are not operable through checks, cash withdrawals, so on and so forth. Go further. We'll take questions, after this session. Please wait, and I think my team is already active on the chat. Now, this will actually give you how these APIs are manifested. While the API specifications and protocols are fine, if you see on the left-hand side are your various interfaces. There could be an app on your mobile phone. There could be a web browser. There is a possibility of an interface-less systems also. Chat platforms are one classic example. People have enabled businesses on WhatsApp. There are also voice-activated, interfaces such as Alexa. You can actually go to or Google Smart Box. You can actually go to a Google Smart Box sitting in your kitchen, and you can order for a coffee or a meal while not having to move from your place. All of these are REST-enabled client platforms. When I say REST, these are all RESTful services, which fundamentally enable the transfer of a payload which is encoded in JSON. That basically, and these JSONs are well spec'd, for each scenario, available on our GitHub as well as on our Swagger Hub, which fundamentally initiate a post request to which, if the technically everything is fine with the payload and the connection, an ACK gets issued. After that, a processing of this payload starts on the other side. Go further. Which basically gets processed by the OMS or the ERP system on the seller side, who then processes and then responds, back to the query accordingly. In between, there is a small piece called gateway, which has an access to the registry. So each buyer app, when they are trying to connect through a gateway to registry offers all the endpoints which are offering, the service of interest for the buyer, and then pans out these requests to all the seller apps who basically qualify for that request category. All the seller apps then respond back to the buyer apps with their inventory and offerings, which then buyer performs selection on and then sort of proceed further. Next slide, please. So this is in brief how the APIs are getting manifested. In the next slide, we'll talk about each of these scenarios, and these are pretty simple to understand. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This will be more of an understanding framework. A buyer wants let's say, for example, Nitin Mishra wants to buy a mobile phone. I go to a buyer app and then say mobile phone, search for mobile phone. A search request gets initiated, goes to the gateway. The gateway then returns the endpoint. Gateway then queries the registry for all the endpoints who are either providing mobile or they are providing items under electronics as a category, right? Then this request actually gets fanned out to all the respective seller apps, which the registry has discovered. So every seller app need to have an entry into registry and register for the domains they are actually offering, products on, to receive a request from the network. Once they receive this request, they basically, draft their catalog in the specifications provided in an on-search payload. And there are various scenarios in which on-search payload gets drafted differently for electronics versus, grocery versus food. Buyer app receives this on-search payload and then they perform rendition for their buyers to sift through. A buyer.
Surendra, I asked you to mute yourself.
Okay, so now the buyer actually sifts through the list of items that are available and then start creating their cart. They may want a mobile phone. With mobile phone, they also want a back cover. They also want the earphones. They also want charger. All of those things get added to the cart. For each time a buyer and a seller, a relationship has been established. Then fundamentally, and go to the next slide that basically explain all peer-to-peer transaction. Now all these transactions that you see post search is all peer-to-peer. Each time you add an item to the cart, a select call get issued to the seller, who then says whether the price has actually remained the same, inventory is available, the terms and conditions have not changed, and they respond back as success or non-select. Once the selection has happened, once the item has been selected, go further down, please. Right? Then there is an initialization of this card where you then do proceed to checkout. Again, the inventory, the prices, the terms and conditions, everything gets verified on the seller side. And if everything is same, they respond with an on-it response saying that they are fine, which basically fundamentally becomes the draft contract, right? And then finally, once the checkout has happened, in case it is a prepaid order, buyer app collects the payment. If it is a postpaid order, buyer app issues a confirmation call to the seller, and seller, upon confirmation of payment received by the seller, responds back with a success. So if you see, this whole framework is actually designed using asynchronicity in mind. Every single API gets tagged and then gets responded back, on a callback URL defined by the buyer apps. So this is how this whole framework is working. If you go further, this basically further explains, the status on status call. Again, a buyer app can seek status, or a seller app on their own account, unsolicited responses can be sent on status saying that the order has been picked up or order has actually been delivered, so on and so forth. Further, please. Again, update on update. I explained any change to the order values, whether the order value has changed or the item quantity has changed, or seller wants to express inability to service a particular item or a service. All of those things actually happen on update, which results into calculation and change in values for the order. Go further. And we talk about track on track. Buyer app wants to know where my product is. The seller app can provide this information on track. It has left my factory. It is in a warehouse. It has left my warehouse. It is in the warehouse location of your city. It has left your warehouse in your location and is now en route to your door. So this is a track on track facility, which is also fundamentally enabled in an interoperable and decentralized. Cancel on cancel, very simple. Buyer can issue the cancel can actually either be issued by the buyer, or the seller can also sort of cancel a particular order if something is changing. And they can send a response in on cancel unsolicited saying that the product has been cancelled. Backed by, of course, there is a whole flow. So once a cancel is initiated, then update flow also must happen, because now order value is changing. Rating on rating, a very important element. Every buyer and every seller So it is an obligation on the buyer apps to enable buyers to provide a rating to the sellers in an open framework. It is mandatory as part of the network policy on ONDC that every buyer app will seamlessly collect and transfer the ratings in a specified format as expected as part of the rating API. This is not an optional feature. Over and above, the policies allow buyer apps and seller apps to seek more information or more feedback about a particular item, which can be locally stored. But then the rating given by a buyer to a seller has to be, has to have some sense of centrality enabled on top of it. Further, please. Again, support on support. If you need warranty support, if you need support on a particular product, if you need usage instructions, support on support actually provides that framework. Further, please. Again, we talked about the IGM framework, which is issue and grievance framework. A buyer can raise an issue on a buyer app, which is fundamentally a complainant. The complainant raises an issue, goes to the other side. The other side processes, creates a CRM ticket, and responds back to a particular issue. And then they provide the issue status, whether it is closed, and if it is closed, what actions have been taken. Actually, it's cascaded back to the buyer app, and fundamentally leads to a change in. If there is any change, if there is any change required at the order level, that gets cascaded there. Further down, please. Again, receiver on receiver, fundamentally, every collector of money, and in this particular case, anybody could be a collector. Any collector of money has to move that money to the destination. In case seller is collecting the money, in which case they have to settle that money to their sellers, and they also have to settle the buyer app finder fees, which is the commission charged by the buyer app to the seller app for discovery of buyers. So again, the receiver recon actually takes care of it, where every collector of money will basically transfer a reconciliation file after transferring the money to the other network participant, who will then perform their own reconciliation and then respond back whether all the transactions mentioned in a particular order book is reconciling with their OMS system or not. Further, please. So with this, we come to the end of the slide. These are certain opportunities, and we see there is a tremendous amount of innovation possible. While HTTP was well defined, till about late 80s, the real adoption started happening when you started seeing some of the major languages that started supporting libraries for HTTP. NIO was a very classic, library framework that was, enabled by JDK, which revolutionized the way the HTTP gets used. Whether it's RESTful implementation or a simple website implementation, HTTP is pretty much flexible. So these are certain, opportunities that are available when you're thinking about building something. Build something for scale. Build something for, in an abstract sense, which can be implemented with minor tweaking and configurations across the board. That is what is going to be the key driver for unlocking the true potential of the network. We are working with many of our participants. This hackathon, one of the expectations is that some of these things that we see on the screen are getting delivered. There could be adapters, very lightweight apps, fundamentally with no platforms. Your mobile phone itself can actually be a processor, which is fundamentally acting as a gateway into the network. There is a catalog digitization, a huge problem. The one reason why we have not seen the e-commerce penetration into tier 2, tier 3, or the rural scape of India is fundamentally because of the digital literacy which is available in these geographies. Idea is to create digital tools that basically enable a completely uninitiated, and if you go to the rural areas, you will see a very deep penetration of smartphones. Can we actually use these digital tools which are available in these houses and empower them to become digitally visible? Of course, UX is one important element. A lot of problems to be solved there, and you would have seen some of the problem scapes. How do a seller apps who have no control of the buyer side can actually provide unique experiences? There are tremendous amount of opportunities available in an unbundled network for enhancing the UX. Native Indic language support. While my team is insisting on native Indic languages, I'm more interested in looking at global languages. Can we actually create a framework that fundamentally works anywhere in the globe across languages. Um, there are a lot of scope for testing and certification. Today, one of the pain points that we are working with is to ensure how can we reduce the time taken by a particular participant to comply with the network policies and network specifications. This is one area where there is tremendous opportunity for growth and innovation. Um, Maps and geography-based serviceability, another problem to solve for. Again, tremendous scope for innovation. Can we look at ONDC and then see other transactional frameworks, and can we actually look at ONDC going beyond digital commerce landscape? Another area of interest and innovation for us. Reconciliation is a very complicated affair, right? So there are a lot of business sense. Can we actually standardize and create tools and utilities that basically makes reconciliation somebody who's completely digitally uninitiated to someone who's very, very advanced? Of course, interface-less systems, voice search, smart search, fuzzy logic. Can we actually use some of these state-of-the-art search technologies and search grammars to enable, cross-platform searches, effective searches for a buyer app and a seller app to provide better services, and for buyer apps to, provide better information to their sellers to service them better. I think this is the last slide. I'll go further. I think that's just thank yous. This we have already talked about, and every time I show this slide, the numbers have changed. It's very scary. I don't want to commit on the numbers because this 11,000 has very easily would have gone beyond 12,000 as of yesterday. So, but very healthy pipeline. The network is actually catching its pace. We have proven beyond doubt that this actually has legs. Now we have to really look at acceleration and then accelerating value, a value unlock on the network. Just some of our prospective participants, some of the solutions that get developed as part of this hackathon may actually be adopted by some of these guys, which could in itself become a business model for people who are actually creating solutions for the base. So that's pretty much and I always end my slides with one statement: let's build for India, build with India, for the globe. Let's build something big. Let's build, and my real aspiration is that the next Google should come from India. It's the risk. I'm speaking on a Google platform, but I really wish the next Google come from India. And then really hope some of you actually come up, rise up, and then create solutions that actually solves problem for the globe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nitin. Thank you very much for your presentation and for the wonderful talk through of ONDC and its vision towards digital commerce, and also touching upon the various technological aspects. So it was lovely listening to you. And as I can see that all the participants actually loved your session. So I can see various reactions, various confettis and various claps on the chat box. So yeah. So thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Nitin, for your time for this particular session. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Usha Rengaraju. She'll be basically walking us through Google Cloud and its prowess in terms of the technological aspects and what exactly you can do with it in terms of achieving your particular goal for the problem statements that are defined in this particular build for Bharat. So Usha, may I please request you to join and take the stage? Yeah. Yes, I guess Usha, I believe she got dropped off. Usha, do we have you?
Hello.
Oh, hi, Usha. Hi. Hi. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining. So I
yeah,
believe you got dropped off in between. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I just told everybody that you'll be walking us through Google Cloud and what its prowess is in terms of the technological aspects and how they can utilize it in the particular project. So please, I hand the stage over to you, and please, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah. Just a minute. I'll just share my screen.
Sure, please.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session on Introduction to Google Cloud. And I'm all excited to deliver this session for Build for Bharat, hackathon. And about myself, I work as a chief of data science research at Exa Protocol, and I'm also a 3x Kaggle Grandmaster. So the session today will roughly cover all these topics. So first we'll see what are the services Google Cloud offers, and what are the end-to-end services, what are the different platforms available for you to make use of for this particular hackathon. We'll cover an extensive briefing of all the services. Then I'll show you a quick demo of Google Cloud Console, where I'll show you how to launch an instance. And then I'll walk you through some of the Google Cloud services which is relevant for this particular hackathon. So I'll be particularly putting a focus on Vertex AI and a lot of AI ML services offered by GCP. So this is what roughly we are going to cover in this session. So if you take GCP, it offers an end-to-end platform with various services and applications, right from the data ingestion to the drift and monitoring. Even after you put your model to production, there's a lot of parameters which you need to monitor. You need to monitor drift, and you need to monitor the performance continuous. So right from stage 0 to after the production, after the deployment of your models, every stage, I think GCP provides you tools and applications for you to use. And it also provides tools and applications for various stakeholders involved in the development of an application itself. So if you take any data science projects, it's not just the data scientists. There are different stakeholders who are involved in a traditional data science project. It could be data engineers, machine learning engineers, you also have data scientists, you have data analysts, and you have business users, and finally you have the consumers. So each of these stakeholders will put into use different products from GCP. So if you take data engineers, they primarily deal with the ingestion of data. And for ingestion of data, there's a lot of data ingestion services which is provided by GCP. You have PubSub, you have data stream, and if you're migrating from one database to another database, you also have data migration service, and you also have data transfer service. And all of these enterprise capabilities are provided for you. So if you're a data engineer, there are a lot of useful services out there in GCP. And even if you come for processing side, there are a lot of data. You have a lot of fully managed BigQuery and big data engineering services offered to you. Either if it's an implementation of Apache Airflow, or if it's an implementation of Apache Beam, or an implementation of Apache Spark. On all of these implementations, fully managed workflow on top of GCP is offered for you. And in the form of products like Dataflow, Dataproc, Data Fusion, and all these products offer you a wide variety of ETL and big data engineering services for you. And when you come for relational databases, I think you have, every data science project requires you to work with a lot of enterprise data, whether it's a structured data in the form of SQL, or sometimes it might be huge volumes of unstructured data. If you're dealing with NLP applications, then you're going to deal with huge volumes of unstructured data. There are a lot of, in your problem statements, there are a lot of use cases where you will be dealing with unstructured data as well. Sometimes you might have, when you're dealing with the customer services where you're tracking the inventory or tracking certain kind of structured data where you're having structured fields and you're storing in values in it, then you might be using more of a relational database systems, whether you're using structured or unstructured or NoSQL database, whatever your needs are. GCP has got its cover through various applications like Cloud SQL, Spanner, you have Bigtable, Firestore, Memory Store. If you want in-memory management system, you have Memory Store, and you also have Firestore. So there are a lot of applications to take care of your data storage needs. And when you take a BigQuery, if you want to perform analysis, it's a huge data warehouse for performing real-time analysis, and it comes with a lot of facilities like BI engine, BQML, and Google storage. And if you have a multi-cloud environment, and you still can you have provisions for interacting with multi-cloud environment as well. And the most important thing, which I'll be covering in detail at the later part of the session, is about Vertex AI. So Vertex AI is one-stop solution from GCP for all your ML needs, whether it's whatever whichever part of the pipeline you want to build, GC Vertex AI has got you covered, and it starts from stage zero till the end, and even after your model deployment, continuous monitoring, everything is covered by Vertex AI. So Vertex AI gives you up to 130 plus foundational models. So most of the use cases in your hackathon, you will be using a lot of foundational models. And here, if you want to use tech, and if you're using foundational models in NLP, or if you're using large language models, or if you're using foundational models from audio domain, whatever your needs are, there are around 130 plus foundational models provided for you. And you also have explainable AI. So it's more important when you're delivering solutions, you should be able to explain how your model is able to come to that particular prediction. So explainable AI is a very important component. And so whatever your needs are, just a minute. Yeah, whichever be it explainable AI or MLOps pipeline, after you build your model, you want to put it into production. So you have one stop, in a single with a single click and drag and drop, you can put your models to production. So there's a lot of provisions available for you. A lot of provisions available for you. A lot of applications in the business intelligence side, and you have app platforms like AppSheet, where it's a no code applications for tablet, everything with a click of a button, and it's a no code platform. You also have Firebase with a lot of backend computing facilities, and there's a lot of different folders in a data, and there's definitely you'll be using live stream data, or sometimes you'll be dealing with batch data, batch processing, and you'll be working with data in the offline, whatever you, irrespective of the use case, machine learning. So you will be So you would require a Google account. I'm just showing you demo in quick labs, but then when you in real time when you do it, you should have a Google account to develop. You have a Google Cloud to enable your Google Cloud, and you should also have credit cards for uh, you know uh, your account, filling up your account information and all. So once you set up your Google Cloud account by using your Gmail ID and setting up your accounting details, credit card details, and all, a valid credit card details, you will have a dashboard like this. So start up a VM instance, so you have to go to Compute Engine, and in Compute Engine, I'll be clicking on VM instances. So here it's very simple. Go to Compute Engine. In Compute Engine, I'll be clicking on VM instance, and here I'll have to click on instance. You can give any meaningful name for it. So I'll just give bill for Bharat, and you can give the specific regions, whether you're using Asia or you're using US region, whichever region you are using, you'll have to give the specific region which you're using. I'm just going with the default values, but then you can choose Asia and specifically, which is specific, like Asia South or Asia. You can just go for Asia South, which is more relevant, Mumbai. So I'm just going with the default regions here. So for your basic purpose, like if you're just going to use Vertex AI, and if you're just going to use some of the basic applications which you have walked through, if you're not going to use GCP for model training, if you're not training any models from the scratch, if you're just using foundational models, then you're just going to make an inference using the foundational model. So you don't require higher end GPUs for it. So you're just making an inference. So the basic instance like E2 must be sufficient for you. But if you're going to train a model, if you have your own custom architecture, and if you're building your own custom model from the scratch and you want to train that, then in that case, you might have to go for higher end models with good GPU configuration. I think for majority of the use cases, you can use the foundational models, which is provided by Vertex AI. And with that, you can just custom train on your data set, curated data set, which you have very specific to that particular problem statement. You can do a custom training on that, and then you can make inference. So that kind of a pipeline should work for majority of your use cases. So you can go with the E2 instance for that. So based on this, you can set up like how much of what should be your disk size, 10 GB. So I'm going for all default settings. So allow HTTP traffic, and that's all it is. Click on create. So the instance which you create, you will also get, statistics about how much it's going to cost you for a month and how much it's going to cost you for a week, and all these statistics. Pay close attention to billing statistics and all that, so you don't end up losing a lot of money. Kindly pay extreme attention to how much it's costing you per week and per month and all that for the duration of the hackathon. So that's it. So instance creation is as simple as it. So for instance, if you're more of a cloud console user and you don't want to use a UI, you can also activate the cloud shell, and then you can also create an instance using a command line as well. So if you're comfortable using the GUI, you can create it this way. Or if you're comfortable with cloud shell, just click on this button, which will activate the cloud shell, and you can create. So you might have to authorize it. So click on continue. This will provision your cloud shell, and you can also create a virtual machine instance using cloud shell as well from using your command line. So whatever works for you, whether you prefer command lines or you prefer GUI, I think GCP has covered for both. Like whichever way works for you, you can launch your VM instance. So this is how you launch your virtual instance, and then you can connect to open your SSH in your browser and then get started up with your workflow. So this is a basic demo of Google Cloud Console. So I'm going to exit out of my yeah. So yeah, back from the demo, the next topic we're going to cover is about Vertex AI pre-trained models. So pre-trained models is going to be a very, very important part of your product development. Whichever use case you are using, pre-trained models will play a huge role. So we are in a very good state when it comes for vision and language. Most of the state-of-the-art models are more than sufficient to solve majority of your problems. If you just take the state-of-the-art foundational models which has released currently for any particular use case, what are the top performing models you can see for that particular use case at the moment in 2023 and in 2022. And if the model is available in Vertex AI, you can just use the state-of-the-art models, and you can just custom train on your given data set, specific data set, and you can make inference on it. So this kind of a pipeline will work for you. So you for vision, if your particular use case deals with vision data, whether it is images or if it is video data, then you have a vision API, where you can also do a custom training on your data set. Or if you don't want to do a custom training, if it's a very, very straightforward use case like image classification, things like that, then you can also use AutoML vision. And if you have a particular video and you want a lot of statistics about the video, as it's a retail video or a lot of video intelligence, then you have an API for video intelligence as well. So these are some of the use cases covered under vision API. Under language, again, you have a different set of use cases covered, be it translation, translating from one language to another. I think you will be using it a lot for your use cases in the hackathon. And there is other, again, here you have if you want to custom train it for a specific data set, specific regional languages, I think you have provisions for doing a custom model training as well. Again, you have setting up a chatbot. There are a lot of services for building a conversational AI through Dialogflow, and there are a lot of other APIs for doing speech to text and text to speech and all that. And when it comes for structured data, at least majority of the use cases, you will be dealing with structured data. And for structured data, you have TabNet. So TabNet is one of the state-of-the-art deep learning model for tabular data. And you also have time series data. You have APIs for dealing with your time series data. And there are AutoML tables. These are different applications which Vertex AI provides, which might be relevant for your particular use cases in this particular hackathon. So specifically, some of the helpful APIs. Vertex AI is a suite of APIs, and in that, if I have to handpick the most relevant APIs for this particular hackathon, then I would say you have Translate, where you can translate from one language to another language. And you can just go, the way you work with these APIs is click on it and you can try the translation API. So you just have to So for cloud translation API, if I have to use it, just click on enable. So any of the APIs which you have to use, if you're planning to use, enable the API, and then keep a tab on the pricing as well. So check out how much it's going to cost you per hour. And, always keep a tab on pricing whenever, whichever API you use, especially if you're dealing with any Vertex AI related APIs. Then if you enable the API for performing certain tasks, once you complete the task, make sure you disable the API back. So this is about translation, and you also have natural language API. So for the natural language API, you can take any piece of text. Maybe I'll take a text. So I can just copy this text. So I'm just taking, pasting a random text. I'm trying the natural language API demo. So it's giving me what are the entities. So what are the entities which are present? And if you want sentiment analysis, first entities, you get the named entity recognitions. And then for sentiment analysis, you get the demos as well. And you also get different categories as well for classification, text classification. So this is about natural language API. And you also have vision API and speech API. I'll show you a demo of the vision API. So I'll reset it. So I'll use a dog image. So the objects which are detected in this particular image is dog, and what is the confidence level at which it is detected. And there are other objects in this image as well. You have plants, you have flowers, you have leaves as well. So what are the possible labels for this kind of images? You have plants as well, you have dog, you have nature, carnivore. So these are some of the labels, and what is the confidence interval for these labels? That's also you get. And you also get the other properties of this, and if the search items for this particular image also you get. So these are some of the features which are offered by vision API. You can go to this demo and then you can upload a different image and test it for yourself. You can do this without even having a Google Cloud account. You can just go to the documentation page and upload an image and try out and see as well. And then we have the speech API. So speech API, so you have two options. You can just upload an audio file, or you can also use your microphone. I'm going to use the microphone now. I'll just refresh it once. Hello, welcome to Bill for Bharat Hackathon. So I spoke something, but then it's giving this. So whatever you speak, you can speech can be converted to text. So this is a quick demo of the helpful APIs which you will be using for this hackathon. It can be Translate API for text translation, and then Natural Language API where you have multiple attributes which are covered for you, multiple use cases like named entity recognition. You also have a sentiment analysis, text classification. There are a lot of use cases which are covered in the Natural Language API. And you also have vision API where object classification, image classification, you have object detection, and there are other attributes which are covered in the vision API. And finally, you have the speech to text, and which is very helpful if you want to convert, the video or speech data into text. And this brings us to the end of the session. So yeah, a quick summary of whatever we have covered. So we started with what all APIs and applications and tools which GCP offers, in the broader scale, like for different stakeholders, be it data engineers or ML engineers or developers and all. We covered all the list of APIs and tools. And then we had a short demo of how to launch a VM instance using Google Cloud. You can either use GUI or you can also do it using your command line prompt. And then we covered about Vertex AI, what are the APIs available for you, for this in the part of Vertex AI. There are around 130 plus foundational models available for you, and covering various use cases in vision, language, and conversational AI and structured data. And the most useful, we also covered the demo of the most useful APIs for this particular hackathon, like language translation, natural language API, and you also have vision, where you covered multiple use cases like image classification, object detection, and you also have speech API as well for converting your speech to text. This brings us to the end of the session, and if you have any questions, or go to the host. And one more thing is, if you want to learn more about Vertex AI, there is a YouTube series by Priyanka Vargadia, which I would highly recommend, you all watching it, if you want to understand in the rhythm with the Vertex AI. Yeah, with this, thank you, and over to the host.
Thank you, Usha. Thank you very much. It was absolutely great listening to your insights on Google Cloud Console, the various engines and the frameworks which participants can utilize, along with Vertex AI. And along with that, you also explain the promise of these particular tools and how they can be integrated within the problem statement and to solve those particular areas. In this was built for Bharat. So thank you very much for that. And I'm sure the participants enjoyed that as well, right? So it'd be great if you could put your feedback on that as well. I can see a lot of them. Yeah, wonderful. So yeah, let's move forward with this. As I mentioned, thank you, Usha, for your presentation. So with that said, I'd like to open the house for the Q&A. So I was actually seeing that during both the sessions, presented by Nitin and presented by Usha, being put. Alison Wellington, can you please go on mute? Thank you. Yeah. So as I was saying, so during the particular sessions, the questions were readily addressed by ONDC's team as well. So thank you very much for that, and really appreciate your effort on that particular front. But if by any chance your question was missed, or if you have any other questions in the pipeline, please feel free to put them on the chat, and we'll be addressing them one by one. So please, the open for the Q&A, and you can put them on the chat. Thank you.
Can we actually speak and ask the question?
I'm sorry, that won't be possible. So you can put the query on the chat, and we'll get that addressed.
What do you mean the open source map?
Right now, the only
you can unmute and we said that we'll become our first question. What do you mean the open source? Yeah. What you say no?
Okay. The first question is, what is an open source map? If you see, fundamentally, the API-based map services are quite expensive when you're actually developing any system that uses, geographic and locatographic, use cases. What we are seeking is, for example, H3 indexes is one way of looking at, how which Uber has open sourced, as to how you can use the geographic data for, field movement. Can we actually look at a simple open source map that basically gets embedded into a application either as an SDK or as an API based service, which is cost effective and has greater potential for scale. So that is fundamentally what open source maps actually mean in this context.
Okay.
Excellent. Viraj, next question, please.
Yeah. I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much. So the next question is, just give me a moment.
How do you you can just unmute. Yeah, so all the buyer network both the buyer and seller network participants, essentially network participants on ONDC, like I previously also mentioned, have to adhere by the ONDC network policy, which sort of covers the overall aspect of how a network participant should behave. So essentially, that is how. But for any further detail, you can reach out to www.ondc.1 when we have that. Okay. Next question.
Next question, Abhiraj.
Yeah, so the next question is from Karan Rao. He's asking how are we assuring that both buyers and sellers are adhering to the API contracts?
Yes, so I have already answered that question. Network participants essentially on the ONDC network have to adhere to ONDC network policies, which is available on our website as well. And there is every transaction which happens over the network also goes through a transaction level contract. Essentially, these two things are what controls the policies and the rules of the game.
And just to add to what Weber is saying, fundamentally the compliance to a protocol construct, and I'm talking pure tech, is fundamentally on the network participants. If the buyer apps are basically receiving something from a network which is not complied, to the network policy that each network participant signs with ONDC, then each buyer app can actually seamlessly issue NACs or basically deny processing of a payload coming from the other participant.
All right. Thank you for taking that up. So I hope that answers your question. The next question is from Alison Wellington. In ONDC, can any third-party provider build a seller and a buyer app and register at ONDC network, or is it that the ONDC will control UI of the buyer and the seller app?
ONDC does, yeah.
No, so absolutely not. So effectively, what the whole idea of ONDC is to facilitate the platforms to communicate with each other. So the buyer apps and seller apps create their own UI and UX. But what ONDC has done is come up with something we call as the reference buyer app and the seller app, which effectively just gives them some like a reference or a benchmark that they can use to develop their own.
Understood. Thank you very much. And I hope that answers your question, Alison. So moving on to the next question, we have the next one from Sumar Kumar Subudhi. The question is, as ONDC says, a product once listed, it will populate to the ONDC integrated e-com websites at the same time, like Paytm, Meesho, etc. So how will these e-com giants will differentiate, or is it supposed to make some strategies? Or I know I haven't been there yet, but I would love if someone shed some lights on this.
So, in very short, ONDC is a network. It's a concept, right? There is no classification between a large e-com provider versus a small e-com providers. Any of these platforms, if they continue to add value by being independent and continue to run, they are very well, able to do that. There is no need of any differentiation. They basically offer very specialized, products and services and very specialized experiences. However, there is a need for them also to expand their avenues and expand their market. I foresee some of these large players also will become member of ONDC by complying to ONDC protocols, so that they can actually offer their buyers better choices and their sellers better access to the market.
Understood. Thank you for taking that up. So the next question is from Prakash Upadhyay. What is the current state of store digitalization process? Is it fully manual? And how is the KYC being done currently?
So some of these problems are part of the hackathon problem statement. Catalog digitization is a science in itself. A lot of these seller apps who assist their sellers to create their digital catalogs through various means. Some of them have actually employed AI for creation of their catalog. Some provide pre-created catalog which the sellers actually use to create their own catalog. So there are various models available. But fundamentally, the assistance to the seller will be provided by the seller apps to digitize their catalogs.
Understood. Yeah. Thank you very much for taking that up. Anybody else? Any questions? Please. Yeah, we do have a couple of questions. So the next question is from Ranjana N. She says, if a seller goes live on ONDC using a seller app, will they be visible to the buyer apps?
Yes.
If buyer apps today disclose their sorting and filtering criteria, if they pass the sorting and filtering criteria, which is public in nature, they should be visible.
I hope that answers the question, Ranjana. Yeah, thank you. So the next question is from Rituraj Bidwai. Can I help component manufacturers on the ONDC ecosystem and their clients are outside India?
Yes. Yes, you can do that. We have already had one, demo. A proof of concept transaction between Singapore and India. So yes, it's definitely possible.
So I think a lot of these questions also are interest-based questions on how to join the network. What are the mechanisms to do so, whether directly or as sellers. We also have regular sessions on the same. I think it happens every Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Every Tuesday. Yeah, so every Tuesday this particular session happens. And there's an interest form which is also circulated. I would strongly urge everyone to please go to our website, which is www.ondc.g. And you'll get all of those details there. There is a strategy paper. There are a lot of resources that we have already published. A lot of those questions will get addressed there as well. I would want to focus more on pure play hackathon problems that you might have, while we'll continue to answer the questions pertaining to the network. But if the moderator can pick and choose questions which are very, very relevant to the problem at hand, it'll be helpful for the entire community.
Absolutely. Thank you. So the next question is from Manas Nikam. So it goes like, consider the process of Swiggy, which shows the real-time tracking of delivery partner as well. Whereas in the case of ONDC, this is texted based and doesn't provide real-time tracking in case of grocery and food delivery.
Oh, so it will start. I'll stop it there so that we can quickly move forward. It will start. There is already a work which is going on the way. It is still an evolving network. Very soon you will start seeing those features also getting added.
Understood. So yeah, I believe that has been taken care of. Yeah, thank you. So the next question is from Carmo Sebastião. Can you please shed some light on what are you looking for as a part of a data science as a service problem statement? So for the problem statements, Carmo will be having a separate session. So you'll be notified about that. So any questions you might have for the problem statement in specific? Sorry?
Just give us a second. No, I think yeah. So you're right. We'll also have a separate session on the same.
Yeah. Right.
We can really pick that up there.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be taking up certain queries for the problem statements in that particular session and addressing all of them. So yeah. The next question is from Mohit Mamgain. Just give me a second. Yeah. So the next question is from
Why do you want to?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. If anybody wants to speak and anybody who has raising their hands, if anybody wants to unmute themselves and speak. Vishal.
Hey team, hi.
Yeah, hi. I can.
I'm an early stage startup founder. I was just thinking on I have went through the problem statements for the hackathon and the next ventures thing. So I just want to know if I'm building a solution, it should whether contribute to the if I'm working on a seller side solution problem statement, digitalizing the catalog. I just want to know, should my solution cater to all the, should add value to all the seller network participant, or it should be a platform specific solution in order to be eligible for this hackathon?
So fundamentally, we do not want to confine a solution to a narrow scale. If you think you can actually build something that services a particular platform, keeping open network and interoperability as theme, you can always go ahead and then create solutions around it.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kiran, and thank you for taking that up. So yeah, the next one in line is Rakshita Saxena. Are you on the call? Rakshita, can you hear me? Rakshita, yeah. If you're not available, Vishal, can you unmute yourself and go ahead with the question? Vishal Sujitra.
Yeah. What is the format of the submission of the project, like architecture, resources, which are the expected to be used?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. What is the format of the submission of the project, like architecture and resources?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, we've already provided the solution format online, but effectively, what we're looking for is the source code and also the front end, code as well, so that you're able to kind of demonstrate the solution as well as we can look at the scalability of the code.
Okay. And from where we get the database and APIs, all the things for the testing the cases, and we can implement in our application.
Yeah, so it depending on the problem statement, the expectation is that you use data sets that are available online. And then when you're giving us the solution, provide us with the test cases and the data so that we can test it at our end and say, okay, this is working, this is not.
Okay. So where we get those data sets from your end, from ONDC or any other website is there?
No. So this data is not, I mean, ONDC will not be providing any data. We ourselves don't have data. So you'll have to look at publicly available sources. I mean, there are most of the problem statements, there are already a lot of data sets available online.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Vishal. Thank you very much. Yeah, Saurabh, you've raised your hand. Can you please unmute and ask a question?
Hi.
Yeah.
Can we use third-party APIs or a product to be integrate our solutions? Hello. I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Yeah. Is ONDC team question audible?
Saurabh, can you please come again?
Can we use third-party APIs or a product to be integrate on our system for respective solutions?
Yeah, that should be fine as long as we're able to test it. That's all.
And essentially, there should not be any conflict per se, right? Like that is for the participants to take care of.
Okay.
With respect to proprietary and all of those things, that is something that you should take care of. That the solution that you are presenting is yours.
Okay.
That tomorrow, if it's not plagiarized, the responsibility that the solution presented is yours and they're not plagiarized lies with the participants. ONDC is not going to check it. ONDC will Google it.
And I have a query like if a buyer ordered a food and seller did not respond, like ONDC, how work in this situation?
And the seller did not, sorry?
Respond, not accept, not decline.
Protocol. So again, like ONDC is not a regulatory body here. That if any of the entities are basically not responding, then there are mechanisms in which a buyer application and a seller application can talk to each other in this particular case, just like it happens today in a platform monolithic centric world. ONDC does not interfere in the business practices of each of these particular entities.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Saurabh, and thank you, team, for taking that up. The next question is from Nitin Jain. It's posted on the chat box. Any guidelines for displaying filter on search results on the buyer app, or is this a first come first serve basis?
No, so this like I think Webber was mentioning, the filtering and the sorting criteria is owned by the buyer apps. And the only requirement that we have is please declare your filtering criteria so that it's unbiased, so that declaration is in fact on the ONDC website. If you look at it, and I think in the resource section, we've even provided those links, which says, which gives out the sorting and filtering criteria for every buyer app.
Okay, thank
Does
you.
that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah. Nitin, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nitin. Yeah. So the next question is from Kailash Rathore. What documentation or other requirements are necessary for the onboarding process of sellers on the seller app and ONDC, including the KYC?
Yeah, so that is that like there is on the ONDC website there are a list of seller applications which are there. Sellers can reach out to those seller applications. We have no privy information to what is required by the seller application to onboard a seller.
I think Vaibhav explained it earlier. Any ONDC specific questions, we encourage you to join the community call.
Yeah.
Let's focus on questions which is pertaining to hackathon and the innovation around it.
Right.
Otherwise, it will become a Q&A session for ONDC, which is and there is a different forum for that.
Right. Right. So yeah, the next question is from, I believe we have a couple of hands raised. So Abhishek Kumar, if you can unmute yourself and go ahead, please.
Hey, I wanted to know, in case I have, for one of the solution and I have built an app, how do I test it that it works with the ONDC network or uses the ONDC protocol?
Which KPIs and reference app?
Hello?
Yeah, so Nitin, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so if you go to our GitHub, there are a lot of mock APIs that are available. You can either use and create your own mocks, or you can use a reference app which has of these things. Otherwise, you can actually create your own, for example, a Postman collection for demoing the solution. So all of those things are possible, but there are multiple interfaces. There are mock APIs available. There is a reference app which is available if it is around grocery and food. There is also a mock API available for financial services. So depending upon what your solution is, you can actually choose to integrate with any one of them.
Yeah, and what we'll do is post this call. We'll of course have all the FAQs given the questions that you have, and also in the resource section, we'll keep updating or pointing to the website where these reference apps and all these this information is available.
All right, thank you.
Right, thank you. Yeah, Rikshita, if you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Rikshita, are you available? I think she has an internet issue. So yeah, we'll move ahead to the next question. So it's from Rithela Technology. Can a startup prepare solutions for more than one problem statement?
Yeah, I've already answered yes. Please do that.
Sure.
But please register repetitively, like for how many number of problems that you are registering for you are trying to attempt, so that we have a count of the numbers.
Yeah. So there's another question that that says, is there a database that contains all the seller and the buyer controlled by ONDC from which we can fetch the data? I believe that has been already answered, or has it not?
Yeah, that's on the website. The seller app and the buyer app information is already there on the website. ONDC does not control anybody, but the information on the network participants on the network is there. Link has been shared by Neeraj.
Yeah, you can refer to this particular link and get all the required information. So yeah, guys, please feel free to put in more questions if you have some in the chat box. Yeah.
Anything specifically on the problem statement?
Hi, this is Rituraj. Can I talk?
Yeah, please, Rituraj.
Okay, so I think you guys have already answered my question of, if I can get components manufacturers. So I will obviously attend that call on Tuesday on problem statement. One specific question I had, I don't have an application. I'm thinking I'll keep a very light progressive web app as an interaction in between buyers and sellers of component of people who want to buy components. And then enabling on both the sides the ecosystem. I have certain things in mind, but really need to move forward. For that, I may have some doubts. So are there any other sessions that I can be part of, or there is any way that I can reach out to someone on ONDC, or if there is any specific platform where I can ask those questions and get answers? Because I understand all of you won't be available, or many of you won't be available at a given point when I need help.
So Rudraj, I don't think that the question that you're asking pertains to the Build for Bharat initiative that we are doing. It's essentially building up like an application. So like what Neeraj also mentioned, there is a community call which happens. Would really urge you to redirect your questions there. This is not the right forum for this question.
Yes, I understood that. But for Build for Bharat, my problem statement itself is that. So that's the reason I asked. Nothing else.
So there will be the entire schedule of future master classes will also get published if it is not already done so. We're going to have at least one every week. So that's specific, and for each particular master class, we'll be picking up a few of these particular problem statements and going a little bit deeper. So you can just check out the schedule there and attend all of those classes.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, team, for taking that up, and thank you, Ruturaj. Yes, I believe we have another question from Sitesh Adhikari. So it's a long one. There could be multiple areas of consideration for the seller price suggestions, especially in the case of grocery items, like population density of that area, transportation and storage charges. Production may vary due to climate changes every year. There could be multiple hands before it reaches the market. Supply and demand may vary due to stockage and daily damage of the grocery items for that particular setup, and many other factors. Is there any specific hierarchy I need to follow?
No. And then it really depends upon, in my view, what is the kind of solution that you're building. If you want to have like a hierarchy-based pricing in place, by all means do so. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer in this one, according to me. The protocol or the problem statements does not add this as a prerequisite, if that is the question.
Okay. Thank you for taking that up. So if anybody has any other questions, so please feel free to unmute yourself or ask the question. Yeah, Praveen. Yeah, please go ahead. Praveen K.
Yeah, hi. So, what is the selection criteria for this kind of problem statement? Like the scope of the problem statement, it is well defined. So if somebody is building the solution, like increasing the scope or limited to scope, like how the selection will be happen for the problem statement or the solution?
No. So you mean that how are we going to shortlist? Is that your question?
Yes.
So, sorry, but we have provided some criteria, right? We provided some criteria on the evaluation, right? So we've provided a format of evaluation, and basis that we have a shortlisting criteria as well.
To answer your question, I think that particular criteria is there. I'm not sure whether they have been uploaded or not. We should check it. Essentially, it's the way we are thinking. It's going to happen in two ways, in two phases. The first one, the shortlisting is going to happen having both technical as well as business evaluation in mind. That there's by technical, the problem segment should be scalable, should be stress tested, so on and so forth. I think Google is going to help us in that. And then there is going to be like the business viability of that particular solutioning. Based on that, from all the solutions that we'll have shortlisted candidates that we'll shortlist. Those particular teams will release sometime, I think, in the end of Feb, if I'm not wrong. And then we'll have sort of a demo day kind of a thing after like about 15-20 days, wherein we'll call the shortlisted team for a physical demonstration and Q&A. Based on that, we'll have judges and juries, from the relevant fields of each of these particular problem statements, assessing those problems to come out with the final result.
Yes. So I mean to ask, like before the demo day, for the demo day selection, so like it is a like kind of POC or MVP we are building. So there may be like hundreds of participants who have built the same kind of solution, and it is passing the criteria. So what will be the selection criteria from your side to choose among the participants? Like all are having the criteria and they are fulfilling the criteria. So like scalability and all.
We'll cross that particular bit. So there is, if you're asking that, do we have like a upper cap in mind? No. We believe that if there are people who are providing a solution to us, we will accommodate as much as possible as we can. What you're saying is that there are 100 people, 100 of those people have the same solution, same level of execution, same level of execution, both technically and in terms of business. They will obviously get shortlisted. In terms of demo day, they also, again, during those demo days, they get. So in terms of shortlist, we'll not remove any of them if we do come to that particular stage. Post that, during demo days, you're saying that even then, they do not have any difference. I don't think that will happen, but we'll see if we cross that particular bridge.
Yeah, my question is like before the demo day, right? So in demo day, there could be like possibility of discussion, like how the solution is implemented and all. But before that, we are just like submitting our.
There is no upper cap. So to answer your question, Praveen, there's no upper cap in terms of shortlisting. If that does arrive, then all of them will be shortlisted. It will be extremely fair and transparent.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Praveen. And if you have any further questions as well, you can email us at the support email ID, and we'll be happy to answer those.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, Amit Srivastav, we can take up your question, and we have a few in the pipeline, and post which we'll be moving forward with the next phase of this particular session. Yeah, Amit, if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So, as an AI startup, we provide different AI-based model through APIs, and which can actually address seller product onboarding challenges, like whether you could talk about the moderation, background alteration, image enhancement, and even creation of different image sizes. So we provide different models that can address all these kind of challenges. So how do we customize our solution to participate in the hackathon?
Sorry, we didn't understand the question. Can you just repeat, please?
So actually, we provide different AI-based model in form of APIs, like how we have different APIs from Google. In the same ways, we also provide different AI-based model in form of APIs. And our product is also being used by some of the marketplaces for inventory management as well as bulk image uploads. And actually, we are trying to address challenges for the product onboarding. So how do we formulate our product in a way that we can participate in the hackathon?
See, in terms of formulation, I think, if you can demo what you are developing by either creating mock sets or by integrating with something which is already existing, that should constitute your submission. So that is not a problem. But I think plagiarism or something that that you basically will cook up or start using from something which is already built by somebody else, that is the only restriction we have. Otherwise, you're pretty much free to define your own format. There is a specific sets that if it is not published, it will be published. Where you should be able to give a demo and maybe a small write-up about your product, and at some point source code as well, which will be evaluated for selection of the winner.
Just to add to what Nitin said, if I were you, what I would have also done is, I'm sure you have a certain product market fit based on which you have developed a product, right? Go through the list of seller apps online and see if there is a particular seller app based on which you would want to customize your product demo. And then I think the proposal would probably be that for these kind of seller apps, this is how we will integrate, and this is how the digitization or the inventory management of the sellers would work.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much for answering.
Yeah, thank you for taking up that team. So as we have got a bit of a time constraint right now, so we'll be taking 2 more questions. So Prakash, Upadhyay, and Lister, you can unmute yourself one by one, so you can ask your query. Prakash, please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. So I see the solution submission page, which is on Hack2Sell website, is only asking for the approach of your solution. Are we supposed to give certain link of our demo, or is it just the description of a solution that will suffice?
No. We're actually looking for the demo of the solution, which is why, and if it's not clear, then maybe we'll make it more clear. But effectively, like Nitin said, the source code, the front end application, the test cases, these are 3 things that must be a part of your submission.
All right.
And what Vaibhav was telling you before as well is that when we're evaluating in stage 1, there will be a business team looking at how that demonstration is working. So, for example, if it is a price optimization engine, right? How does the front end help the business person actually get an insight that is actionable? So that is something that we'll evaluate, and also there'll be a technical team that will be looking at your code and saying, how scalable is it? Can we add more use cases? Is it optimized? All of those parameters.
So I think.
So will there be multiple round of on and off discussions between the evaluator and the participating team while they are evaluating, or will it be like one-time submission and then it's all up to you to evaluate and finalize?
I think firstly, before we close that and move on to your next follow-up question, the Build for Bharat initiative is essentially split into two broad themes. Like there's one thing which we call our Next Gen Ventures, which is sort of an incubation program that we have and that is being done by Anchor India. The submission of that has a separate format. I think that is what from your question, it seems that you're referring to that. So that is what needs to be submitted in that particular format. The hackathon problems, which is both for scalable solution and foundation solutions, is what Pritha just mentioned. So I think both those details need to be very, very clear. I think Harsh from Google, if you're here, and Hack2Skill team, I think that we should double check on this one to ensure there's no confusion amongst participants on that. To answer your follow-up question, we are keeping essentially master classes. We also have a Discord community. We also have an emailer system wherein you can ask your questions. However, once a submission essentially is made from your end as part of one of the registrations, I think that is going to get picked up for evaluation. We are not going to handhold the teams up till the decision making is happening.
Understood.
The discussion around each of these particular problem statements, what is required from a solution, what we are expecting from a submission perspective, all of those things are getting discussed as we speak. Submissions are made, essentially your submissions are going to get evaluated.
Understood. So what I understand is that in the form that's given on the Hack2Skill website, I need to share the public links of all the demos that I've created, and those will be the evaluation points and the source code repositories and everything.
Yeah. Yes, like depending upon the problem statement that you are picking up, Harsh, I would strongly recommend, we should ensure that, each of these particular problem statements, the expectation is very, very clear.
Because the follow-up question is that since we are making these repositories public for evaluators, this might, get into plagiarism and things like that. So your hackathon participant might be slightly, not so confident about sharing their solution at first. They might be waiting for the last date so that everybody finalizes their solution and submit.
Plagiarism by who?
No, it is not an open platform. It is not as if that you are submitting something from your end and some other participant is able to see your solutions. That is not happening.
That's correct. I think it's hidden from other participants. Sure.
So that is not happening. That's what I'm saying. That your submissions is like a submission that you would do for any other entity. It is not open sourced in nature.
Got it. So I have to give specific rights to the people on my GitHub repositories or any of my demo account credentials that these are the evaluators and you can access my demo using these creds.
Yeah, Harsh,
Hello.
if you are here, I think, yeah, you guys, you need to take up this particular problem, and you need to explain this.
Yeah,
to the
absolutely. Sure. So Prakash, what you can essentially do is you can email us at the particular thing that the brand team has dropped. You can email us your query at that particular email, and we'll get that sorted. We'll get that.
Sure.
Thank you, Prakash. Yeah. So we take up the last question. Lister marketplace. Yeah, if you're available, and yeah, please.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I have a very straight question. We are a marketplace operating in this space from long time. Already onboarded a lot of sellers to sell online. My concern is to that the lot of solutions which you guys are seeking as a problem statements which we have already developed. So we wanted to know how we can multiple apply in different problem sets.
You can do multiple registrations and apply everything to these registrations. There's no stopping to the number of problem statements that you can apply to. We just need one registration for one problem statement. So if you want to register for all 18, you want to try for all 18 problem statements, you're free. Please feel free to do so.
Okay, I understood. Now, second thing is for the Entler thing, you were explaining that they want a complete business case as a model, as not as looking as your code as a concept. They are looking more over into the business side. So for the application of the Entler, how we can do that also?
No, so that is again like once you register and once you apply, once you attempt that particular problem statement, what is expected and in what particular format is available on Build for Bharat. There is no confusion in that. So I'm not sure as to what you're asking there. You register, you apply for that particular problem statement, and you submit the solution in the format in the formatting that has been given on the website itself.
Okay. Thank you. Understood.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Lister. Yeah. So yeah, thank you team for answering that question. So with that, we come to the conclusion of this particular first masterclass for Build for Bharat. So now, if any one of your friends, your colleagues, or if you have joined the session late, don't worry. Post this particular call, we'll be posting this link on the resources section that would be available on your dashboard, the participant dashboard. So with that said, I'd like to again express my sincere gratitude towards our esteemed panelist, Mr. Nitin and Ms. Usha, along with the entire ONDC team for taking up all the questions and answering them so diligently. So thank you for sparing your time for this particular masterclass and giving the attendees these industry levels insights and addressing their questions. So yeah, thank you very much for joining, and to all the lovely participants out there, thank you very much for being the part of this initiative. And thank you very much. Have a great evening.